Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Discover at Home. My name is Annie McDonald. I'm naturalist and volunteer coordinator at North Lakeland Discovery Center up in beautiful Manitowish Waters, Wisconsin. And for this week's episode, I thought we should get a little bit nutty. We're going to explore a common species, a common plant species here in the North Woods, but that has a really important role, and it produces this little guy, this little nut. It's not the acorn, this is the hazelnut. Join me as we explore some hazelnut thickets. So here I am standing in a mixed conifer and hardwood forest. We've got red pines, white pines, as well as birch and maple trees, red maple, here in this section of our forest. And you'll notice there's some big gaps in the canopy, and surrounding us in this understory level, in this mid layer below the actual tree canopy, we've got a lot of shrubs here, and these are beaked hazelnut shrubs. They love this type of forest, a little bit upland, so the soils are pretty dry. They are capable of tolerating a lot of shade, so we'll even find them in areas much more shaded than this, but they do best when they have at least 4 hours of direct, unfiltered sunlight. They're also really well adaptable, so they can adapt to different soil types, whether it's acidic or alkaline, whether it's more moist or dry, but they do best in this type of area with, like I said, a good amount of direct sunlight and drier soil. The leaves of our hazelnut shrub, you can see, have very toothed margins, so this kind of jagged or tooth-like margin along the edge of our leaves is a nice characteristic that helps us to identify them. They're also, when you touch them, they're pretty fuzzy to the touch. So there's little hairs, microscopic hairs on the surface of the leaf that gives it a fuzzy surface. And you'll notice also that the leaves are arranged in an alternate pattern along the stem. So one leaf here, and then instead of having a leaf directly opposite of the stem on the other side, they kind of crisscross their way up the stem, so in that alternate pattern. And they also have a little bit of a heart-shaped pattern to them, with the little notch at the base of the leaf and then coming to a point at the very tip. When they are in the birch family, they of course shed their leaves, so they are deciduous, and in the winter time they create, or in the fall into winter, the shrubs will create the male flower called the catkin, which will dangle off of the tip of the stem. And then in the springtime, there'll be these tiny, minute little red flowers that are the female portion of the flowers of the plant, and those are then pollinated by those male catkins. So each plant will have both male and female flowers. And from late summer into early fall, if we get lucky, we might actually find the nut. And here we have 2 beaked hazelnuts, and you can tell that they're beaked hazelnuts based on this long sheath surrounding the nut. So the sheath actually covers the entire nut. I'll pull it off here. Actually covers the entire nut, this green bract, and then comes out in this long tube, which is what gives it the name beaked, since it has this long beak-like tube covering the nut, which is inside here, this round portion. Sometimes they grow together in small clumps. Sometimes you'll find them singly on a branch, and here you can actually see the nut poking through, not being covered fully by the sheath. The American hazelnut, which is another species of hazelnut here in Wisconsin, doesn't have quite as long of green sheathing. It only covers the nut about to here or so. It doesn't come all the way out in this big, long, elegant tube-like structure. So here is the actual nut of our beaked hazelnut. So these are what the beaked hazelnuts actually look like in early August, but they're ripened by mid to late September and into October. And they have just a phenomenal nutritional value. They're a good source of protein, fat, and fiber, as well as calcium, iron, and potassium. Each nut contains about 10 calories and has a higher nutritional value than even acorns. The Native Americans used to use them by consuming them either raw or roasted. They'd also use them to flavor soups. And then, of course, we can also grind them up into a flour to use for bread, or, as most people are aware of it, covered in chocolate in a Ferrero Rocher or whatever, or on the Nutella bread spread. They're not only a beautiful, but they're a beneficial shrub because they have this value not only as a wild edible to us humans, but also to a number of our wildlife species. So it's pretty rare that we are actually able to find a large crop of ripened hazelnuts because they're so readily consumed by so many different wildlife species, including our white-tailed deer. Even red fox will utilize them, and that's only if they're not already taken and cached and stored by all of our squirrel species, which readily cache them to use throughout the winter. But even our blue jays, our ruffed grouse, the turkey, and a number of other species, including pheasants, will all heavily feed on these ripened nuts when they're ripened later in the fall. And they also provide a lot of value for wildlife in other ways. So these dense thickets provide excellent habitat value for our nesting bird species. Our snowshoe hare will often create dens at the base of a number of these thickets. The snowshoe hare will eat the bark and some of the fresh twigs and fresh shoots throughout the winter. And then the ruffed grouse will feed on those catkins, those male flowers, all winter long. So they have just a phenomenal value for being a shrub that's usually overlooked. If you're looking for a place to explore some hazelnut thickets, come check out the Discovery Center Interpretive Trail. You can join us on a Friday free guided nature hike or go out and check out the trails all on your own. We have over 12 miles of trails on campus, and there's always something interesting to explore. If you'd like information or would like to register for any of our programs, including the Friday guided nature hikes, you can check out our website, www.discoverycenter.net. I hope you guys enjoyed learning a little bit about hazelnuts, and I gotta say, hazelnuts are not bad at all. See ya.